Welcome to episode 26 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by NoVig. As always, I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, joined by my good friends, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. Boy, it's been a while here, and there's nothing negative to say about any of the representatives for the Devils, Islanders, and Rangers in the Olympics right now. Team USA, Team Canada, both 3-0. Czechia, we could shout out to Andre Palat, having a good tournament. Sweden, not bad with Mika Zibanejad, Jesper Bratt. Am I missing? Oh, Nemec. He's on Slovakia.
Yeah, Slovakia. He's having a good one.
Who else? Anyone else? Timo Meier with the Swiss.
Yeah, Markstrom for Sweden.
Markstrom for Sweden as well. I mean, Sweden has the opportunity, or might have the opportunity, depending on how that game goes with Latvia. Imagine Team Sweden takes down USA. That'd be something. That would be something.
Yeah.
But where do we start? Do we start Jack Hughes? I feel like that's kind of where we left off. And Jack has been one of, if not the best forwards for Team USA.
Yeah.
So, Arthur, I'll kick it over to you first. Give Rupper some time to warm up here.
I just want to say I didn't get the dress code memo that Rupper is just outshining us with the sweet looking tweed blazer. But it's all positive. You know, we were talking obviously last week about Jack missing those games, and you know it's a controversial topic, but it seems like that's kind of been swept aside. The Devils are out of it; they're dead and buried, basically, unfortunately. And when he comes back, if he can carry over what he's done these first three games in Milan, great. The Devils need it. The organization needs it. Everybody needs to see him be as involved and excited to be playing for the Devils as for Team USA, and we've gone over it. This is a special opportunity for first time for him, first time for almost everybody. So you got to embrace it. It's unfortunate that he wasn't able to be available for those three games before the break that the Devils lost and kind of dropped them into the spot that they're in. But and it was interesting to see where he started. You know, he was basically their 12th forward almost that first game against Latvia, and he's just kind of worked his way up. He really looks like a top six guy, like we all thought he was going to be at Four Nations, and it didn't quite gel as well in that short tournament. But he's Jack Hughes right now, and it's kind of a nice memory. It feels like 100 years ago, but in October and November, this was Jack Hughes. He was playing this well for the Devils, and they were playing this so well as a team. And it's probably going to make all our Devils watchers, break their phones or their laptops watching this to think back to how good he was earlier in the year. But it's great to see, and maybe it can be a really good reset when this is all over. If he comes back with a gold, with a silver, whatever, and just put his foot down on the gas and say, okay, I can do this for this team too because I've done it before.
Robert?
Yeah, no, I think he's been probably the best player for Team USA for me, as far as just making everybody around him better. And maybe that's to your point too, Arthur, like the way it was kind of slotted and it looked to start, having him on that fourth line. What was it? JT Miller, Brock Nelson, and Jack Hughes for game one against Latvia.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that it seemed like a miscast. I mean, having Jack down in that spot, but this is the Olympics, and sometimes you have to have really talented players play different roles. So he was showed that he could do it, and he's willing to do it, play the wing, and maybe be in a different role than he's used to having. But it didn't take long for all of a sudden that to be a tough decision, I think, for Mike Sullivan, because he like I said, he was incredible. So now you got to get him more minutes. Is that with those guys? Is it moving around the lineup a little bit? I think you've seen a little bit of both. The biggest question mark for Team USA for me coming into this, and I know for a lot of people, was Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes going back from Four Nations. That was to fall one goal short. And those are two superstars that didn't look at their best in Four Nations. I'd argue those are their two best forwards right now for Team USA. So I love the fact that they push back and they punch back, and they're showing Coach Sullivan and company that if this team's going to do something special, it's with those two.
I was actually going to add to that, Rupper, by giving the stat. You mentioned Jack Hughes getting more ice time. He's only averaging 11 minutes 45 seconds right now of ice, which is the 5th lowest on Team USA. And keep in mind, he's played all 3 games. So Clayton Keller's in this, Kyle Connor's in this. Then you have Vincent Trocheck and Tage Thompson, who are the only ones playing less than him. So for Jack to be doing what he's doing and getting under 12 minutes a night makes it even more impressive. And to your point, I think most fans right now, most Team USA fans, would want to see Jack Hughes up there with Austin Matthews and probably Matt Boldy. Maybe you could bump Gensel down a little bit and strengthen the lineup down there because, you want to keep the offense going with Matthews too, with how he's playing. Not to make this about Austin Matthews, even though Vic is probably smiling ear to ear behind the scenes here. But last year in Four Nations, Jack didn't score. Matthews didn't score. I don't think Eichel had a goal. Like that's the difference right now with Team USA. They need those top guys to get it done. And Jack's kind of been that spark plug as far as making plays, driving offense. I'd say Brady Tkachuk has probably been up there too with, one of the most consistent forwards. But it's great to see Jack kind of, taking the criticism, which we gave him, which a lot of people gave him leading in, and almost shouldering it off and running with it here in the first few games. And
no, sorry. I didn't want to cut you off there. So that's the thing is like, we're going to give criticism where we think it needs to be had, and we're going to give the praises when it needs to be had too. Sure. And we just said, like, in the way he's playing right now, and the one thing that jumps out to me with Jack, and we see it when he's playing for the Devils, he's doing the old beaver tail, slapping a stick on the ice. He wants the puck. He's demanding the puck. And I love the fact that he's doing it here at the Olympics. Jack is not a player that normally defers to anybody. He shouldn't, because he's a great player, man, and we're seeing that. But it's fun to watch him. This is that element that he has, that element to dictate, to control play. And you see him out there, like he's just hovering all around. He's supporting the puck everywhere. He's banging his stick on the ice. He wants that thing. So it's fun watching him move around and create offense. I think he probably knew he needed to show something different now than Four Nations. Maybe needed Four Nations to get a taste of what this is going to be like. We'll see. I still will say for Team USA fans, they still haven't played anybody yet. So that'd be my only cautionary tale in all of this, and not just from individuals, but as a team. Let's see what they can do against a bigger team like a Sweden, or a team that has a little more cachet.
And one more thing, if I can, Arthur. Oh, sorry, you go. You go first.
Ahead. No. I just like where he's averaging less than 12. But I feel like those guys, whether it's him or Nelson, Jack is the wild card really going into this elimination round, where if they need a boost, if you need, he's kind of that X factor. They can move him up. They can get him some more power play one time. I just, I think for Mike Sullivan and that coaching staff, they're obviously happy with the way that he's played, and they're happy that he's itching for more minutes. He's not out there top line matching up top line. It's the best aspect for me of this tournament, where you've got guys that are the guy on their team, and now here they are trying to accept a different role or push for more time. You got to earn it, and so I think he's earning it. And I think whether it's Sweden, I think we know from the Four Nations, the offense is going to get a little stymied once we get into these, the more established nation games, whether it's Sweden or Finland or whoever, ideally Canada in the gold medal game. You got to have someone that's going to be a game breaker to go out there and kind of, draw some attention, match up against a third D pair, whatever. The fact that Jack is that guy, I think, is going to help USA a lot.
And the one criticism I've heard about Jack from people online, it's not necessarily people I've spoken to, is that, Jack's playing great, but he's way too perimeter. And for the people that are saying that, it's like, do you watch Jack play for the Devils? Like, Jack is a perimeter guy, but he is a guy who makes plays from the perimeter. Like, no one's expecting Jack to stand in front of the net and deflect the puck, behind a goalie. Like, Jack's the guy who's going to get it to the net. And, I think that's what he's been doing really well. And for people to say he's been too perimeter, I'd say he's a perimeter player, but in a positive way. Like, he makes a lot of stuff happen.
He attacks the interior, though. So it might not be his body that's placed and standing in there grabbing that real estate, but he attacks the interior from the outside. And that doesn't work for every player, but when you're world class like him, you can still create. He's got the vision, setting up plays. But I think that's the one thing, is that there's a lot of star players in the league that are perimeter players, but not all of them attack the middle. He does. Like, he'll take that puck and he'll make those beautiful feeds in the middle of the ice. And he's got to play with guys who play on the interior. Absolutely. He's got to have that. And I feel like maybe at times with the Devils, that's where him and Jesper Bratt get in trouble a little bit, because they need a little more interior presence. But we're seeing it right now, man. He's fun to watch. Yeah. Is he on the outside a lot? Yeah, but he does it like very few can do, and it still creates a ton of offense.
Was Jesper Bratt, now that you mention it, while we're sticking with the Devils, unless you guys have a final thought on Hughes, but was Bratt scratched in the last game?
His minutes were cut back.
Yeah, he didn't play much.
But it says he's got 2 games played here looking up or looking online. And I think I saw he might be out of the lineup in the next game.
I know his minutes early on were not he was playing like 9 minutes, but it's tough to even gauge on minutes, because 9 minutes NHL is not great for a player like that. But we just got done saying, like, when you have 4 lines, everyone's minutes are down in some way. But yeah, that's been the one player I think that hasn't really found his groove of probably all of them we're going to talk about for the Tri-State area. Jesper Bratt's probably the one who hasn't really found his game in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, Johnny.
No, I was just saying, I'm seeing, it's in Swedish, but I'm seeing some comments on Twitter right now with Bratt out of the lineup from, I guess, what was today's practice for Sweden. I said Finnish, I meant Swedish. Sorry, excuse me. It seems like Jesper Bratt is not playing in their play-in game from what this looks like.
It was Philip Forsberg that was kind of the odd man out, 13th forward when they started, and there was a lot of uproar because they really didn't get their offense going in those first couple of games, and then he kind of gained a more prominent role, and I guess he gained it at Bratt's expense. But when the team struggles and Sweden didn't really have a great preliminary round, somebody's going to take it on the chin, and it seems like it's kind of been the way his season is going too. Like Rupper was saying, you see the Swiss contingent; those guys are integral to what the Swiss team is going to do. They're probably 3 of the 4 or 5 best Swiss players that they have, especially now with the Fiala injury, which was really unfortunate. You look and you see Simone Nemec, who we can talk about, who's Slovakia has probably been the nicest surprise of any team, and Nemec playing major minutes, and it's kind of we kind of throw it back. I think everybody is going to remember that Slovakia is playing really well. They might remember that Lucas Raymond completely dog walked Nemec for that goal in the Sweden-Slovakia game, but the kid's out there a lot, and it does kind of harken back to that stretch in December when the Devils D was really banged up, and he was playing 25, 26 a night, and what he does defensively, but offensively, it enables him to get in a rhythm, get up the ice, feel the puck a lot, get in the flow of the game. And I think he's doing that for Slovakia too. And it's definitely playing a role in why they had such a good preliminary round. I don't know if they can keep it up once they get into the big boys in the quarters and the semis, but that to me, Bratt is an unfortunate situation. Nemec to me is a guy, the confidence boost that he can get from this is going to carry him, I think, back into the regular season, even if the Devils aren't really playing meaningful games down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking up some more stats here as you're talking about Jesper Bratt. Trying to figure, again, I haven't watched all of Sweden's games, so I can't speak firsthand on how Bratt has looked. But it does say, 2 games played of the 3 for Sweden, and it looks like he's not going to play in the next game. So, yeah, you speak about confidence and whatnot, and Bratt obviously not having scored many goals this year or not up to his standard. Maybe it's just one of those years that's a massive off year for a guy that we have a lot of expectations for, especially you and me, Arthur, with that clip from earlier in the season. But yeah, I'm just, I know everyone's been kind of looking for stats. That's something we talked about. I'm looking at Sport Logic right now for the Olympics. They have like grade A chances for, grade B chances for, expected goals. They have that stuff up here if you're interested in hearing some stats. I don't know if I can't find individual players and lines, but for teams like, Sweden right now has a, I guess, minus 5.59 actual goal to expected goals. in the tournament so far. So Sweden's kind of snake bitten, I guess, for the term that we use in hockey.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have more sites doing more work. Just what we're used to, because we have all the tools we use, right, for the NHL, and there's so many great sites that you can cross-reference and use. It kind of sucks for the Olympics, if I'm being honest. Like that Olympic site is terrible. Like it's terrible. Like I don't like the columns. Like I'm not trying to be like, because it's different, it's no good. It's gives you
it's no
information you don't need.
No,
it's confusing.
You can say it's no good.
You can say it. It's no good.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. So if you're not like watching the game, it's hard to really get a good gauge on what's going on there, because that site and really there's a lot that aren't doing much right now, and I understand, but it sucks, because when you got your routine of doing your stuff and you're figuring out this and looking all those things up like you're doing, Johnny, it just gets frustrating come Olympic time when you don't have that.
Sorry. Yes. Well, it's tough because you can't watch every game. At least the game, I'm not dialed into anyone really outside of Canada and the U.S. Like, let's just call it what it is. I'm not getting up in the morning to watch Latvia versus Sweden, at 6 a.m. I will for the medal rounds in the quarterfinal, because we have to, because we want to know the opponent that we're playing. But in the preliminary rounds, that wasn't happening for me. So
how about quick shout out Timo Meier, though. Timo Meier, one more goal. He'll be the most Swiss goals in the Olympics. So pretty cool. Timo has been putting the puck in the net. I think he's got 4 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's tied for the lead with Mac and Celebrini. Any other Devils thoughts? We haven't really talked about Nico for Switzerland. I don't even think I mentioned him off the hop when I was naming players in the Olympics. So -1 for me for leaving out the captain of the Devils. I'm sure there were angry Devils fans that heard me leave him out, and I'll make up for that right now. But any other thoughts on Devils players in the Olympics at all?
I mean, that Swiss team is really reliant on those guys.
All the Devils,
Timo's been good. Nico plays a ton of minutes. The most I watched them was that Czech game that went to overtime, and they were, those guys are just out there a lot. It's good to see. That team's not going anywhere without Nico, without Timo, even without Jonas Siegenthaler. There's a lot more NHL guys in that Swiss team than there have been probably in past Olympics, but still not a ton. And be interesting to see now if they can, when they get past the elimination round.
Well, they're playing Italy, so they should be able to win.
They'll get through that, and then they've got Finland.
Yeah,
that's going to be
they
tough
could be
one.
a nice surprise, but they could be a nice surprise. Like they can take down.
Finns always seem to come through, and we can transition to the Rangers by, I think I tweeted that one of the first nights that when Capo Kakko puts on that Finnish jersey, man, he turns into a beast. And I'm sure Ranger fans are like, check and see Johnny's face already.
I mean, people. I saw people tweeting clips of Kakko like scoring a goal against who they won 11-0 against Italy.
They ran it up on Italy,
come on, like, are we really fishing that deep?
He's playing really well, and it's one of those. That's the reason why he was a number 2 overall pick. He was a monster in international play back as a kid. So but yeah, it's definitely one of those things. There's guys I think that really know how to play international hockey or get really jazzed up for it. So ex-Ranger, so I don't really need to dwell on him, but it's still funny to watch.
Well, it's just it pisses me off when the fans are like, "Oh, the Rangers could use a guy like this." What the hell are you talking about? Like
watch him play in Seattle for a few games and get back to me.
Yeah, no, it bothers me a lot when fans do that. But yeah, I guess we can go into Rangers. I've talked about it with a couple people now. I feel like for where we are right now, and I want to make one correction actually. Apparently, Vic said Timo has 3 goals, not 4. So I guess I
threw 4.
But either way, no, you're good. Either way, I said 4 also. Either way, 1 goal away from the Swiss record though, so that does stand pat. With JT Miller and Vinny Trocheck, a lot of people, including us, question the decision for them to go to the Olympics. Mike Sullivan probably made it clear that he's using them in a specific role. They've done that specific role. Vinny Trocheck and JT Miller have both been good at the dot, both not playing a ton. So it's not like you could say they're playing too much or Sullivan's playing favorites. And the U.S. has the best PK in the tournament at 100%. So where do we stand right now with those 2 guys?
I mean, that's what they were brought for. That they were brought there for that. You know, they were depth pieces, but they were brought there to kill penalties. And, you know, we were kind of talking about it before that's their top unit. And you're not going to win this gold medal if you don't kill penalties. So they've been doing a great job. So, you know, you got to give credit to Mike Sullivan. I know he's probably there's a lot of people out there just waiting for this team to lose to be like, yep, you should have taken Robo. You should have taken, you know, you left some goals off the table. And I understand that. That's an argument that you can certainly have as far as other guys deserving to be there. But they needed to kill penalties. They didn't have a ton of it on the team. You know, they've got those two guys, Brock Nelson. These guys are doing a job right now. So you got to give a lot of credit to them. They've accepted that role, and that's where they're going to play. They're going to get their minutes in those specialty roles.
Are there?
You know, I think the argument, obviously, Jason Robertson, Cole Caulfield, two guys that probably shouldn't have been left off the team, but now we're seeing they shouldn't replace Trocheck and Miller. They should replace Kyle Connor and Clayton Keller. And, you know, Kyle Connor, who I think had a rough go of it at Four Nations too, it just hasn't been able to kind of find his spot. And maybe you'd like to see Robertson there instead, a guy who, you know, can create a little bit more for himself in these kinds of situations. But, you know, you do need role players. And Billy Guerin took a lot of heat. You know, Mike Sullivan probably took a lot of heat. I will throw in that watching the U.S. play, I still think I would take Adam Fox over Jake Sanderson, and we can discuss that if we want to. Mm-hmm. But that for me, Jake Sanderson has been the weak link on their D, and I think Adam Fox would be playing at a pretty high level right now, and a pretty motivated level. I understand he hasn't played in a month, but I think we would have seen him if he was selected for this team. We would have seen him play before the break. Separate to that, you know, young guys. I think it just reinforces, and we can see it with Canada with Bo Horvat too. Rupper, you mentioned Brock Nelson. You can't just take a team of young, hungry 23-year-olds who can score goals in an 82-game season. Yeah. This is just a different animal. And even at that, in these much more wide open games where they haven't played anybody really good yet, it's still hard to score. Like every goalie in the world is good enough to play, you know, to compete in a international game these days. And their D, they all have good coaching. You're not just going to run through them and razzle dazzle every minute. So, you know, and it's only going to get tighter and harder. So you want guys that have won faceoffs, that have been in those kinds of games over and over for 800-900 games in the NHL. So yeah, I don't think Trocheck and Miller have looked out of place at all. I think it's good. It's good for JT Miller to be in this role. And I think it's going to be good for his relationship with Sully going forward, that he's not playing a lot of minutes, but be a pain in the ass. Be out there, win faceoffs, you know, do what you need to do, even though we know he's not physically 100%. And I think it's going to be good for the Rangers. If Trocheck is still going to be a Ranger after March 6th, which I don't think, it would be good for him too. I think this was the right call by Billy Guerin, and I'm sure Chris Drury had a hand in that. And it would be, if Trocheck's going to stay a Ranger beyond the trade deadline, I think it would have helped. But good on both of them for putting the shitty season behind them and playing well so far.
Was that your lead-in? You want to talk about that?
That's my lead-in. Let's do it.
Can I pause for 1 second though? Because I did actually just do some digging and find some stats on Sportlogic that I could provide. Maybe the expected goals for percentage stat, which is like, you know, the goal share if you're on the ice for more chances than you are against. Vinny Trocheck has a 62.8%. JT Miller has a 59.3%. Everyone is above 50%, honestly, besides one player, and that player is Clayton Keller at a 43.3%. Obviously, Clayton Keller just played the most recent game and, you know, didn't necessarily have the best game, but, you know, all players are, you know, doing pretty well. And Jack Hughes actually, you know, not to go back to the Devils, but got to mention Jack Hughes at an 88.8%. So wow. You know, he's playing a lot in the offensive zone. And I think that actually might be the second highest on Team USA after Jack Eichel. Just kind of scrolling through. Quinn Hughes at a 92.3%. Matthews 87, so Jack's above Matthews. Matthew Tkachuk 93%. Brady Tkachuk 91%. Okay, so it's that line that's at the top. But you know, Jack Hughes is right up there. I figured I might as well throw some numbers out since I found them. But yeah, let's talk about the Vinny Trocheck picture day thing, which to me is not even a thing to me. Like, it's just guys being guys. Vinny's making a joke. He hears the rumors. He knows what's going on. Minnesota's been one of the teams that everyone's talking about because Billy Guerin's there and Billy Guerin loves him. So Vinny, being a guy who, loves to mess around and be one of the guys, saw an opportunity to crack a joke, and he did it. And I don't think he intended on anyone reporting it, but Michael Russo, doing the incredible job that he does, saw it, caught it, and put it out there. And then Ranger fans obviously had a reaction to it. But to me, this is just fucking nonsense.
But even Russo reported it, took a funny.
Yeah, it was like a laughing thing.
Yeah, he was just like, "Hey, that's good stuff." Aha, like laughing. Like, man, listen, like let the guys have fun. Can we let them have fun here? Like Vinny Trocheck has heard all year how bad this team is, how bad this, how bad that. They're done with this. They're going to rebuild. They're going to retool. They're doing this. You're going to get traded. Like, let him have some fun, man. Like he didn't do anything wrong there. Like let's laugh a little bit. Like, hey, yeah, let's have a little joke. Haha. Maybe it's the Minnesota Wild. Maybe it's not. Whatever it is. But yeah, I'm with you, Johnny. I think it was people taking it a little too seriously.
Yeah, I saw that quote and I was like, "Are we fucking serious right now with this?" Like, it's already bad enough, but to get mad about like a little playful joke, like. That's all it was to me. Arthur, do you have a different opinion on this, or are you with us?
If he'd begged off the Ranger photo with the coaching staff and Chris Jury, then maybe we'd have something to talk about.
Yes, that would be a little different.
If he was like backing away, he's like, no, I don't really. I think I know where this is headed. But
he did it in front of them. He did it in front of Drury and in front of Sullivan. Like that should even speak clearer as to like it being a joke.
He knows he's getting traded. He knows he's getting traded. Everybody knows he's getting traded. Why should he I got to stay stoic. I got to keep my red, white, and blue on to the very end. Like, no, he's mentally preparing to have this chapter of his career end, which sucks. It sucks for all of them, and especially sucks for him. He's a guy who, was one of the first big free agent signing that Chris Jury made. Obviously wanted him here. He was part of a pretty great run. That overtime goal against Carolina, that's one of the loudest moments in MSG probably in the last 10 years. Yeah. And they're allowed to have feelings. And I think Ranger fans, any Ranger fans that really got upset about it, I think it's just venting frustration. We understand the season has been terrible and he's part of something that's really special right now. It's a lot like, it's not the same thing as the situation with Jack before the break, because Jack is still a franchise Devils player. This is a guy who, moved here, moved his family here, and now is going to move back out and end up somewhere different for the rest of this contract. So, I don't have a problem with it. Sorry.
I actually have a funny story about that overtime goal. Arthur, you probably don't even remember this, but we were in Carolina together and he scored the OT goal in game 2. I was still pretty inexperienced, I'd say, in my media career. It was my first full season doing it. And I think Jordan Martinook came to the quote unquote podium in Carolina before game 3. And we were asking him questions about the series and whatnot. And my question was did it hurt more that it was Vinny Trocheck who scored the overtime goal? Because he was obviously a former Cane at the time. And I'm pretty sure Martinook goes, "We don't give a shit who scored it. We lost." So that was a pretty humbling experience for me when I think about asking a question. It doesn't no one cares. It's we lost the game. But I remember sweating after he responded that way. I was like, "Oh, fuck, terrible question. Why do I ask that?" Beating myself up.
You idiot.
Yeah, you gotta learn though. You gotta ask the dumb ones to learn how to ask the good ones. And I'm still learning, still asking the dumb ones. Staying with the Rangers though, I feel like this is actually a pretty big topic of conversation. How do we feel about the job that Mike Sullivan has done so far? You can look at the stats, say 3-0. The team's won, pretty respectively, I guess. The only game that was kind of a sweat was the Denmark game, which they finished. I think 6-3 was the final. But there hasn't really been many adjustments. So I think it's fair to say, has Sullivan, sticking to someone in our chat this morning said plan A, is that going to backfire that you haven't tried new things? Because that third line still hasn't gotten going. The top line, while they have generated some chances, and I'm referring to Matthews, Boldy, and Gensel, they're not necessarily dominating. The one line that's really going, or two lines, I guess you can say the fourth line, is the Eichel Kachuk line. and the Nelson, Hughes, Miller / Trocheck line. Like, you need more from those top guys. So what do you guys think about Mike Sullivan's job so far?
I mean, it's tough to gauge it because again, I'm not trying to, it's fun watching it, but they haven't gotten the test yet. So I don't really know how much coaching or maneuvering this team has had to do. At the end of the day, like everybody's gonna have a different opinion on this, but most people would probably have Team USA as the favorite or the second favorite in this tournament. I would assume that most people probably had them 1 or 2 coming in.
Mhm.
I don't think you're going to be able to, or you'll see judgment until the results are in, or until you get to a part here when the competition gets tighter and gets harder, where you're going to have to make some of these decisions. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like I just don't think there's been enough up to this point. Like you have had a dominant lineup compared to your opponent in all 3 games, without a doubt. Like you haven't really had to do anything. But I put that same onus on the players too. Like we don't know, just because some of these players have been good up to this point. Well, let's see how they look against, a Canada in a must win, or against a Sweden, which may happen in a must win. That's where we're going to see the true test is. And that's what scared me about this tournament coming in, is that the pool play that Team USA was in that pool, it's good in some ways and it's not in others. Like we don't know where everybody is actually at as a group, collectively or individually, because they're just simply better than everybody else they've played so far.
I'd say the one thing for me is Tage Thompson. You got to find a way to play that guy more. Right now, Tage Thompson has the second lowest on ice average at 9 minutes, 45 seconds a game. And he's got 2 goals. He's playing first power play, but he is not playing much at 5-on-5. And I actually believe he might have the second most goals in the NHL right now at 5-on-5. I'm going to look that up as I'm talking, but Arthur, maybe I'll kick it over to you for a thought on Sullivan while I look that up to buy myself some time here.
You look at the top 6 right now, and are you saying to yourself, something's missing? I don't think so. I like you said, maybe Gensel, but if Gensel drops out of that Matthews line, Jack Hughes goes in there. I think that's an obvious choice. I think on this team, Tage Thompson is the third line right wing, and that line with Connor, Larkin, and Thompson, I saw plenty of people online salivating over that third line. It's a great line. They didn't generate enough, and it's limited minutes. And I think Larkin is maybe getting a little bit more run there, playing in some different spots. But it's I think it's an unfortunate byproduct. You have to hit the ground running if you're a bottom sixer on this team. You have to. And Brock Nelson and his line, thanks a lot in large part to Jack, have done that. And that group earns a little bit more time at 5-on-5 at the expense of that third line. So, I think you just can't start slow when you're on a team like that. And I think 5-on-5, that line did start slow, and they, Keller jumped in there and still didn't really do too much against Germany. And, I think when it comes down to it, the games they're going to be more important. If, they play Sweden in the quarterfinals, you're going to need all 13 forwards playing significant roles. It's not going to be rolling that first and second line, maybe if they're down a goal, but if they're ahead, you need to have some guys to supplement those, because they're going to be a good team coming at you in waves. So I'm interested to see how it changes, how the deployment changes, if at all, when they get into the, into these quarterfinals and then maybe into the medal round. So, his time will come. If he keeps playing the way that he's playing in the NHL, his time will come. It's just not this time right now.
Rupper, any more things on Mike Sullivan before we talk about the one Islander or 2 Islanders? I guess we can talk about Palat a little bit. For Czechia, there's not much really to say, I don't think. But Bo Horvat, any other thoughts on the Rangers?
No, I don't think so. Let's talk about Bo Horvat. How about him and his first goal, his goal against what was that? That was the first game. Who did Canada play first?
They play Czechia, I believe.
Czechia just shot out a cannon right up the gut of the ice. and just so silky smooth, just opening up that 5-hole, man. Like it's like you could see very quickly watching this tournament of why Bo Horvat was a perfect fit for Team Canada, because he could play a role. And that goes back to what we were saying about some of the other guys too. Like, he is a player that can go in there, and can he score? Absolutely. We see that all the time with him, but he could do a lot of other things too. So that's what makes that team so dangerous, is they've got players like that where you might not see Bo Horvat getting a ton of minutes, and all of a sudden, he just gets that one touch of the puck. Or in this situation, he was absolutely flying on that goal. So yeah, I think he's looked very solid, and that's part of the reason why for Team USA, I'm kind of scared for Team Canada, because they've got like these players that are accepting and can do these types of roles and do it really well.
I'm going to look up his stats while you go, Arthur.
He's a 1C for the Islanders, but he can play like a 4C, kills penalties.
Mm-hmm.
His second power play in the bumper spot, takes faceoffs. You have guys like that. I think Zibanejad is a guy like that. We didn't really talk about him with the Rangers, but you watch him play with Sweden. He's playing on the wing with Pettersson. He's throwing his body around more than you see him with the Rangers. It's just, I think when you get a guy who's played a lot of international, who's in his 30s, you understand the role that you're given. And this is why I understand that the internet wants the newest and the coolest all the time. But this is why these guys get picked year after year, why someone like Bo Horvat gets a spot on Team Canada that they didn't get at Four Nations, because he's got the versatility, and he's got the experience. That experience really matters. And so he can dial his game back. I think Brock Nelson is a guy like that for Team USA, where you can play like a fourth line guy. You can obviously still contribute offense, as Horvat and Nelson have done, but you know what you're there to do. And on Canada, he's not gonna take Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid out of the top 6. So do what you can, and he's certainly doing that. And yeah, I think the team that has the guys in the right roles and guys that can play those roles to the best of their ability, that might be the difference. If Bo Horvat's line gets a shift in the gold medal game against Dylan Larkin's line, and they produce, and that's the goal that makes the difference, then that was the right call. Bo Horvat's been the right guy in that spot. And I agree with you, Rupper. If I was staring him down in a fourth line matchup in the medal round, that would scare me.
It would not feel great. I got one thing to ask you guys, though, because I saw this come up online, and I don't think it's fair to do this, but at the same time, it does make you think about it. The success that we've seen from Brock Nelson in the Olympics and just in Colorado. I'm sure there's a contingency of Islander fans. They're like, why the fuck didn't we keep this guy? You know what I mean? Like, and Arthur, talk some sense into those people, or say they're right, or whatever you think. I don't know, because I understand the move of letting him go, because where that team was. And remember, this is the most important part. It was all before Matthew Schaefer. Like that. Yeah. That's the kicker. It's hard to judge it based off of, because the team is totally different than what they were supposed to be. And I think we've talked about it to nauseum. It's because of Matthew Schaefer and a lot of other things. I don't know, Arthur, where are you at on this one?
I mean, I think every Islander fan loves this guy, and rightly so. He was a great Islander. He was one of those masterful little sneaky moves that Garth Snow made at the draft table, trading back into the end of the first round to get him way back when. Gosh, I can't remember exactly what year it was, 2010 or 2011. And he's just been a real, he was kind of a slow starter at the beginning of his Islanders career, didn't really find his spot, but just, kept earning a spad. And then Barry Trotz was the guy that really unlocked him to become the guy that he is. And so, you look at him as a bit of a late bloomer. I understand, he's had the salt and pepper hair, I think, since he was about 22 years old. So he always looked a lot older than he is. But at his age, and we talked about the Olympic pedigree in his family, it's incredible. If he can win gold, he'd be the third generation of his family to win gold for USA, which is incredible considering how few gold medals the US has won in hockey. But he is just, he's an Islander. You know, he might win a gold medal now with USA. He might win a Stanley Cup with the Avs, but he always has a home on Long Island, and it stands in kind of contrast to how John Tavares left, how some other guys left. You know, Kyle Pozo still has a decade after he left. I think Islander fans still feel really fondly for him, but Brock, I think, occupies a special place, and I think the reason that he ended up leaving is because he rejected Lou Lamoriello's contract offer. He could have stayed, and I think he understood that to grow in his career and finish maybe trying to win a Stanley Cup, it needed to be somewhere else, and he was able to pick. Turned down a trade to Winnipeg. He ended up going to Colorado. He obviously didn't do a whole lot when he got there last year, but he extended there. He's got a big family, 4 kids. I think they really love it out there. And, I think, too, the trade was the thing that allowed the team to kind of allowed Lou, even though he didn't get to keep the job, allowed everybody to say, we're moving into a new phase now. This is the guy who everybody loves, who you'd love to see him stay an Islander. But at that time, last spring, it was, we need to get some assets in here. We need to turn this roster over. And Cal Ritchie, if he could have Brock Nelson's career as an Islander, that team, everybody on Long Island would take that. And I think they're all excited to have him here. And he showed some good promise this year. And obviously the Colorado's first round pick is not going to be a super high pick, but if Matthew Darche ends up wheeling it before the deadline or before the draft for a scoring forward, this is win-win. It'll feel a little bittersweet watching him do what he does. And certainly the heater he's been on the last 2 months with the Avs is incredible. And not that surprising if you've watched him play over his career, but I think everybody understood it was time, and he was the guy for whom it was time because his contract was up and he could get so much back in a trade. So yeah, I think everybody's happy, but I think maybe a little wistful for what could have been if the Islanders been in a different spot last spring.
So that's actually what I was going to add too. I was just looking it up while you were talking, Arthur. And when Brock Nelson was traded last year, which I believe was March 6th, the Islanders were just 4 points out of a playoff spot. And the one team that dropped was Columbus. The team that got in was Montreal. And I'm not saying that Brock Nelson single-handedly would have gotten the Islanders into the playoffs, but if he does, and the Islanders do get in the playoffs, guess what? They don't get Matthew Schaefer. So I don't think you would keep Brock Nelson to not get Matthew Schaefer, right? Like everything worked out in the Islanders' favor, and I don't think you can look back and say, oh, man, I wish we had kept him, because then it's a butterfly effect. And go Rupper.
No, and the other thing to keep, that's kind of my point of bringing this up, because I feel like so many times you could look at it, and I get it, because I would be lying if that didn't cross my mind at some point, seeing him playing well, being like, wow, the Islanders, if they had him right now, it would be pretty sick, where that team, what kind of damage they do. It's not fair to do that. From the standpoint of this too, also, Brock Nelson, we've known that he's a 30-plus guy. Like that's it seems like I've always revered him as that in my head. He's a goal scorer, man, and we see it, we know it. He's also doing this on a roster in Colorado that's really, really talented. He's doing it on an Olympic team that's super talented. I'm not taking anything away from him, because if it was so easy, everybody would do it. My point is, there's no guarantee that he'd be this hot that he's been on the New York Islanders this year. You know what I mean? Like he's playing on a pretty good, talented group there in Colorado. So I think probably more like what Arthur said. Man, he was a great career, one of the great Islanders. Got pretty close there. You almost, I think as an Islander fan, I'd almost be rooting him on, because he's like in the other conference. He's on Team USA. He's one of those likable guys. So I just thought I'd bring it up, because I saw some fans kind of poo-pooing the fact that he wasn't in New York anymore.
Well, what I will say, what I was thinking about, similar conversation but different player, watching Canada with how Macklin's been. I've been sitting here wondering, man, like how awesome would it have been to watch Matthew Schaefer playing this? Like it would have been unreal to have him there. I get why they didn't bring him, but I think it was Tyler Yaremchuk who said it this morning, like credit to John Cooper for not just like putting Macklin on the fourth line, be like, he's 19, it's a new experience for him. He can learn from it, and like putting him right in the top line, full throttle. All the players are raving about him. You're telling me a lot of the guys wouldn't be saying the same stuff about Schaefer right now if he was there. I guess it's easier to say, and predict, but I imagine if he was there, we'd be seeing a lot of the quotes about Macklin, about Schaefer too, or at least similar, not necessarily up to the par of Macklin, because Macklin's a beast, but it would have been really fun to watch Matthew Schaefer in this tournament.
Totally agree. No notes on that one. That
Yeah.
Thomas Harley's actually been really good. Kind of surprising to me how well he's played, but I feel like that was Schaefer's spot, and he would be, people would be really, really keyed up about watching him play in this and kind of seeing what he could do once the tournament got to the good teams.
Mm-hmm. Rupp, anything there?
No, except, I would have loved to have seen him on this stage, but at the same time, I would love to see him get a breather and get a big push down the stretch here. Hey, listen, boys, we got to have one team to be talking good about. And
it's going to be an Islanders podcast in the spring.
Listen, guys, I never thought I would ever say that. But, having him healthy, having him rested is going to be enormous for the Islanders. So as much as, yes, I would love to have seen it, the great story the Islanders have been, a lot of that's been around 48, and he's got to get some rest, and he's getting that right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap up today's show?
Same with Ilya Sorokin. Those are the two guys that hopefully have been bubble wrapped somewhere in Florida or in the Caribbean for a little while, just sitting still for 2 weeks. This has been the most positive show we've had in months. Really,
time.
Yeah, it has. It really has. And we will be doing a live show. I'll plug that in New York City on Thursday night. We do somewhat have a guest semi-locked in, trying to get confirmation right now. I'll just tease it. Matt Martin is most likely going to be joining us unless something crazy happens with his schedule. I've been talking to him all week, and it sounds like he's going to be able to be there on Thursday night. So we'll be joined by Matt Martin. It is in the West Village in New York City. For more information, you can go to, I believe, nationgear.ca. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I'll give you the information. The tickets are free, so you don't have to spend any money. You can come hang out with us in New York City. Vic will be there too. It should be a great night on Thursday night. And with that, I will add that this show is presented by NoVig, the future of sports betting. On NoVig, you play against real users, not the house. And it's the only commission-free exchange, so you keep every dollar you win. You'll get better odds than traditional sports books, meaning you're 10 times more likely to win in the long run. Choose the best odds or offer your own. Trade NoVig coins for fun or NoVig cash to win no prizes. Sign up with code DailyFaceoff in all caps to get $50 in NoVig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase. Available in most states. You must be 21 or older to play with no purchase necessary. Thank you to everyone who listened to today's show. We will not have a show on Friday. I think maybe we'll take the recording from the live show Thursday and use that as a show for Friday. So you will have something to listen to, but we love you. Thanks for listening. And depending on who you're rooting for, which I assume most of you are rooting for Team USA since we're all in the Tri-State area, go USA. Talk to you soon. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.